Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. As promised, we've got the 1967 Mustang back with that fresh coat of paint. It's looking great. So we're going to give you a little bit of walk around. We're going to do a little work on it today. And if you could do me a huge favor, subscribe, ring the bell, leave some comments. That'd be awesome. Let's get to it. Our first detailed look with the car after the paint. Now it's a little dirty right now. We got to do some cleaning and some polishing and all that. And I'll show you some of the stuff that's still left. As you can see, we still need to do some trim pieces. We're going to figure out what to do with that. The window trim that we're going to do. But it's looking pretty darn sharp. Got some interior stuff that we're going to be doing. Started putting on some of this back window trim. Let us know what you think. Go with this chrome molding. Does it accent the color nicely? Or I think it does. It looks pretty good. It's a nice contrast. Or should we go to a dark molding? Keep the whole car dark. Let's come around to this side. Anyways, it's looking good. We're going to get on to a couple more modifications. I want to get stuff like the antenna back in here and just clean it up, put on the finishing touches, maybe put a stereo in it. I think we got an oil leak. We're going to go after that, see if we can figure out what's going on. But yeah, it's starting to look really sharp. It's a nice driver. Our main priority today is we do have a bit of a leak. I think it's an oil leak, might be a coolant leak in there. So we're going to pop the hood, take a look, see what we can figure out. If you come down in here, you can see that we've got a little bit of oil pooling on top of our water pump. So that's what we're after. Could be coming from the distributor here, or it could be coming from the intake manifold seal. So we're going to go investigate that, see what we come up with, and we'll let you know. So you can see down there on top of the water pump, we got some oil pooling right there. We're going to mop that up, soak it up a bit. And then we're going to spray the area down with brake clean. We're going to start the engine again and see if we can see where the oil is coming from. We've got this area all cleaned up now. I'm going to have Chris start the car and we're going to watch to see if we can get any oil coming out. See what we get. Give it some RPM. We're gonna have to back it down to level ground so that we can get the front of the manifold. Go ahead, Chris, back the car out and we'll... I'm starting to see a little moisture happening right in there. Got an oil leak coming from where the manifold meets the block, aka the China wall. That's where our oil's starting to pool. It's right there. So we're gonna have to pull the intake manifold off to fix that, reseal it. Not a big deal, but we're gonna have to let everything cool off. So we're gonna work on a few other things until then. Now that we've identified our oil leak, we're gonna prioritize. We're gonna put the stereo in. Here we go. No, I'm kidding. What we're doing is I'm not actually kidding. We're putting the stereo in. But we want this to cool down a bit before we tackle that job. So we're going to move on to something else and put the stereo in, speakers to put in. So we'll put those in. At least we'll attempt to. And move on to doing that intake manifold. So let's get into the stereo and see if we can make some sparks and some smoke and some fire. We parked the car outside on the driveway, and the reason we did that is so that we can open the doors. The reason we backed it in is that gravity will help hold the doors open for us, and we won't have to be fighting that. Now this is a manual transmission car, as you can see, and the emergency brake works very well on it, but we also put some boards under each of the back tires. And the reason being is we're in there working away, we bump it out of gear or bump the e-brake off, then there's a good chance that it won't roll off on us. So we're just trying to be a little bit safer.
If you got some proper wheel chocks, that's even better, but this will work. So we've got our new head unit unboxed here. Now, he does have a nav unit that we did put in this earlier, but something happened to that, and we're going to go back to it eventually. Right now, we're just going a less expensive route. And when we put that original nav unit in, we already had the wiring here. There's 3 basic wires you have to worry about for powering up the unit. You got your keyed source right here, which is tied into our keyed wire. And then we've got our power, which is the red, and we've got our ground, which is black, which we pulled off of the connector back here. And I like to do things as easy as possible, so we put a couple little pin connectors on there, and they just plug in here, and away you go. Everything's insulated, it works well. You can tape it up if you want afterwards. The rest is just speakers. Now, the old mono speaker ain't doing us any favor, so we're gonna get up there, get that mono speaker out, replace it with something else, put a few more speakers in this, and we'll get the tunes pumping a little bit better. I'm gonna start by taking our new connector right there and hooking up those 3 wires, just like we did with the old connector. Multimeter, voltmeter helps, or even a test light to help figure out where your grounds and your power are, what's keyed, what's not. On the Mustang, it's pretty simple. We got yellow for our keyed wire, and we got a power wire stuff in that connector there that we used. So we'll get back to wiring this new unit up. A lot of these connectors that come in these stereo kits, they come with the wires pre-cut. You just have to give it a little yank and it'll come right off of there. I might need 2 hands for this, but we'll see if we can get it up close. You can see that's already cut. You just gotta give it a tug, hold one end, tug that, and you'll be able to get that, and you'll end up with that. And then you can just either solder or splice or whatever you want to do to hook up your stereo. So that's what we're going to do here. With these wires, you can see sometimes they're a little thin to fit in here. So what I like to do is I like to fold them over. You get a much tighter connection that way. We'll just fold it like that, and then we'll twist it, tin it, and then we'll put the connector on that, and it'll be a lot tighter. There's what it's going to look like before we put the connector on. There's what it looks like with the connector on it. Now we're going to crimp it. We're going to place it in our crimping tool. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Give it a squeeze. When we're done, we're going to give this a little tug, and you see it doesn't come off. And this will plug in nicely into the one we crimped on here. And we'll just put some electrical tape around that, and you got a connection that you can take apart. Now, if you don't want your stereo to be easily stolen, then you can solder these together. But since we're not sure we're going to be keeping this unit in here for a long period of time, we're just going to do it this way so we don't have to keep cutting this wire back. I think I said the yellow was keyed earlier. What I meant, that is your battery power. That's your direct power. The red is keyed, the black is ground. So we've got these all connected. Let's see what type of success. Do we have smoke or do we have power? Don't let the magic smoke out.
I'm rooting for power.
Yeah, well, it's, as long as we don't let the magic smoke out, it should work. Okay. Oh, look at that. We got time. So we don't have any speakers connected right now. Is there a power button on this thing? One should almost read the instructions at times.
I think it's right there, left of.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. Everything lights up. That's a good sign. So we're gonna try hooking up a speaker to this. Goodbye to you too. You can see here that the purple is the right rear speaker or passenger speaker. So we're going to be using the gray wires that we have right here. We know that's where they run to. We're going to hook that up and give this head unit a test. Also, just to confirm, ground is black, hot bus or battery power is the yellow, and the accessory power is red. Blue is an antenna, so if we get a power antenna, that would come into place. We're not going to be using that. Keep following these speaker wires for the rest of it. Going on to mounting, and you're going to have to measure a little bit to see, but right there I've mounted a bracket, a little pop rivet. That'll support the back of the deck. And you're going to want to thread, the stud comes with it. Right there, you're going to want to thread that in. This particular one, it's a 5/16, but it could be different size depending on yours. And that'll mount into that bracket. Here's the original mounting for the radio on the Mustang. We don't really want to cut that up, but it's a nice piece. You might want to go, someone might want that, or we might want it. So we're going to save on that. And we got this plastic one. And we're just slowly opening up with the Dremel tool until this deck support plate will fit in there. So just take a little bit at a time. And the one thing you want to do is if you get a little file or something, you want to file your corners and put a radius on them, because otherwise this could crack. So just open it up a little bit at a time. You just want it just barely big enough to slide that in, and then you're going to pinch it in there, and that'll support the front. I want to test fit the deck, make sure it's going to slide in there without too much trouble. There we go. Yeah, that's going to slide in no problem. We're not going to put it all the way in because it'll lock. The next thing we want to do is we want to come back here, we want to bend up some of these tabs to pinch it in between there, and then we'll get this all mounted in. There we go, we've got our wiring connectors on. I've matched up all the speaker wirings, so you can see like this purple, for example, we've got a bullet on one end and the receptacle on the other. And that'll match up to our actual speaker wires. You can't really mix them up. You just have to know which colors go to which speaker, and you're all good. We got our power hooked up right here. We've got our switch power right there, and we got our ground. So we're looking pretty good. I'm gonna mount the plate in and then bolt it up, and we should have some good sound system. Ready to slide the deck in, and then we'll bolt it up to the back, hook up our wiring. And here's our deck. Look at that, just like that. Now I'll go secure the back. We'll put the trim piece on. Okay, Chris, I think we've got it installed. You can see it down there. It says it's on BT.
Bluetooth, yes,
Yeah.
a rare option for 67.
Yeah, an 8-tracker Bluetooth, eh?
Yeah, and you could even get AM or FM too.
Oh, really? That's an expensive option, though. Big time. That's what that stands for.
Really ahead of, Ford was really ahead of things back then.
Oh, okay. All right, well, let's give it a test, see if it works. We got some wiring to clean up yet, but it should be functional. Oh, look at that, it even tells you what's playing. What is playing anyways? Oh, look at that.
Surprise, surprise.
Isn't that interesting? Well, that sounds pretty good. Let's check out our fade and stuff. Oh, it goes to the right side. Goes to the left side. Well, now that's pure music that was just playing there. Hey guys.
It's the
We'll
best.
do some donuts celebratory in the front yard. So what do you think? You happy?
I am happy. It
Excellent.
looks a lot better than it was with a hole in the dash and wires hanging out.
Yeah, and that's so much better than doing the leaky intake too.
Yeah. At least now I don't have to listen to my car implode. Listen to the tunes.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's it for this episode. And like I said again, please give us a subscribe, some likes, some comments, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, and have an awesome day. Where we're going to finally tackle that leaky intake manifold. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to replace the engine. Stick with us.